In the first video of this module, what we're going to be looking at is what you see when you first log into GA4. Because when you log into GA4, you're presented with a bunch of data and KPIs thrown straight at you. In this homepage of GA4, there's a variety of things for us to have a look at. Starting at the top, these KPIs are presented to us, and there's a line graph, and on the right-hand side, there's a small real-time section as well. Further down, though, we have a couple of things that Google's created specifically for me, or for you, if you're looking in your property. These are all individually curated and designed specifically for what I've been seeing. So first of all, we've got the recently viewed section. The recently viewed section is, of course, what I've been viewing in this property recently, and obviously will be different for you depending on what you've been viewing in that property that you're looking at. There's also the suggested section just underneath, and this is where Google starts using some of its machine learning to identify or start to try and find patterns in what I'm here to look at. Further down the page, we have these things called insights and recommendations, and this is another type of machine learning model that this time Google's using on your data. It's always trying to understand change in data sets, identifying whether something has changed beyond what it's expected to. So this is what they call anomalies, and if you hover over, for example, this one, you can see that it's identified an anomaly on a certain date. It expected this number to occur, but actually a different number occurred, and thus it's identified it as an anomaly. This section will populate over time and change depending on how much you use Google Analytics for, what kind of data you're collecting, and what you're browsing and what you're seeing personally within GA4. So keep checking back here every now and then just to see if Google's identified anything else of note for you to have a look at. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. You can, of course, keep checking back here just to see what Google's come up with. An alternative way of doing it is using something called custom insights, which I've done a whole deep dive video, which I'll link to in the description of this. But that enables you to set up your own insights based on your own requirements and even get them emailed directly to your inbox. On the left-hand side, we have our workspace menu. You can see right now that we're in the home workspace, but there are a couple of other workspaces that we'll be going through throughout this course. We've got the Explore workspace that enables us to do some custom reports and insights and basically play with the data. We've got our Reports workspace, which, as it says on the tin, is where we're going to be doing a lot of our reporting throughout GA4. We then have the Admin workspace, which is where we control all of the settings to do with the account, the property, and the data streams. And lastly, we have the Advertising workspace. The Advertising workspace is something we're going to be spending a lot of time on in the next couple of modules, so watch this space. Across the top, we have what I call the property picker, and this enables us to jump between different accounts and properties very quickly without having to log out, log back in, or open up a new tab. So if I go here, I can see that there's a number of properties available under this account that I have access to, and just by selecting one of them, I can jump into that property very quickly. The interface looks almost identical. Obviously, the data's changed, and maybe some of those dynamically curated elements, those machine learning things might have changed as well. But fundamentally, it's the same interface with different data. And I can easily jump back into the previous property just by going back into that property picker and selecting the previous one I was on. Next to that property picker, what we have is our search bar. And the search bar is actually pretty cool. It can do a number of things, but mainly it helps us find things within the interface very quickly without having to remember where things are. Yes, the search bar can be used for navigation and is really useful for that, but it can do a couple of other things too. I've done a whole deep dive video on exactly what it can do and how useful it can be, but fundamentally it can also look at help center documentation. So if you're interested to know how to implement some kind of event tracking or to implement GA4 fundamentally from scratch, the other thing it can do is answer questions you might have. So try typing in different questions into the search bar to see if Google can understand what you mean and get you the number you're after. So that's in a nutshell the interface. That's what we see when we log into GA4. And what we're going to be covering over the next couple of videos is understanding the reports workspace a bit more and digging into some of the specific reports and how we can use those. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.